Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with one of my very rare Hearts of Iron 4 videos. We have the top 5 miners to play to turn into awesome, powerful nations. This list is in no particular order. We're just going to go through each one. I'll list a few reasons why the nations, I think, the miners so powerful, and we'll go from there. To really make a minor nation into a powerhouse, I think you need at least two of the following three things. Number one, you need manpower. Without manpower, you obviously can't generate a large army or really do much of anything besides maybe capture some other small countries and make them into population slaves. Number two, you need resources. If you don't have resources, you're obviously going to have a hell of a time producing any sort of units without trading away your entire industry base. And number three, you need room to expand. Room to expand just means, you don't have to immediately go out and feel pressured to invade other countries right away. You can spend your time building up your economy, building up your civilian base to really get a war economy going. And we'll start list at number 5. As you can already see, I was already scrolled over Brazil. Brazil is probably easily one of the easiest miners to get going with. Number one is obviously, as you can see, manpower. Brazil has a ton of manpower. I mean, you're talking about a base population of 40 million. That's pretty good. That's actually almost as much as some of the majors. The manpower will not be an issue with Brazil. You're talking about 530,000 on volunteer only. If you're going to limited or extensive or even further, you can have an extremely large army. And not only that, you also have plenty of room to expand into the neighboring states. Venezuela, Colombia. Speaking of expanding, let's go to resources. Obviously, Brazil doesn't have a ton. They have a bit of rubber, a bit of steel. That's honestly not going to do much good. Luckily for you, your neighbors have some pretty good resources. Venezuela, you might consider expanding first for a nice cloud of oil. That'll get a navy up and rolling, or maybe tanks or planes. Steel, Argentina and Chile. Now, obviously, even if you conquer most of South America, you can have a nice bit of tungsten, a little bit of oil, actually, the European colonies here do have a nice bit of aluminum you can get as well. Overall, Brazil is in a decent spot. Expansion wise, their base is pretty good. They have lots of room for expansion in their own borders. You start researching some of the construction and industry technologies, you can really get your economy going. So Brazil really meets two of the three criteria. Resources, not so much, but they have the manpower and the expansion in their own states and even around them to build up a strong base. At number 4, again, this sort of order is not in any particular list, we'll go with Turkey. Now, Turkey, again, manpower is pretty decent. You have a core population of about 15 million, but it's not great, but it's not bad. If you're talking going to extensive or service by requirement, you can have a pretty big army. Manpower is good enough. Resources, they're in a similar boat to Brazil. Now, chromium obviously will not be a problem for you. You've got a ton of it. 156. So later down the line, if you want to field a big knight navy or some fancy armor, chromium is not going to be a problem for you. But steel, they have 15 of it, which is negligible. Turkey's true strength is room for expansion of their own borders. They have a ton of states where they can just build willy-nilly. If you get up your civilian economy pretty early, you can start rolling into nearby countries, expanding your military capability, it's pretty easy to get Turkey going. Expansion wise in the neighbors, you've got some pretty easy targets. I'd recommend going for Iran and Greece. Iraq's a pretty easy target, but you honestly don't get a whole lot. I mean, you get 3 states in Iran. So, Baghdad and Mosul have some good expansion opportunities, but again, Greece, pretty good resources. You can get Iran, again, same reason, but we'll get into Iran later. But anyway, Turkey's number 4, again, this is in no particular order. Number 3, speaking of Iran, Iran is in a similar position to the previous 2 mentioned. Resources aren't great. You've got oil, and really not a whole lot of oil, actually. Iran starts off pretty weak militarily, but if you get your civilian base going, you can get there pretty easily. Their population, core population, again, similar to Turkey, it's 12.6 million, so slightly less. But if you're talking extensive or service, you've got some good manpower. Resource-wise, they're saying again, there's really not a whole lot near you, so you're pretty much going to be trading away a lot of civilian factories to get anything going. Now you could expand into Turkey or Iraq, Afghanistan, but honestly, none of these are easy targets. You can just plow into Iraq pretty easily. Turkey, these mountains can be a tough nut to crack sometimes. If you're going to attack Turkey, it's just building some mountaineer divisions. Here's one of Iran's strengths, expansion opportunity. They have a lot of room for industry in their borders, and they can get rolling pretty easily. With a bit of research, you can really get your civilian industry base going, and you'll also get the few civilian factories, people trading you for oil, which can really help your industry. Iran is in a pretty good position overall. Decent manpower, good room for expansion, but you're going to have some tough nuts to crack through Turkey and if you want to expand further into Europe. Obviously, going east, not a good idea. Afghanistan is an easy target, but they really don't have much. Alright, and number 4, we will go to the Raj. Now you might see this is a bit strange where you're seeing Pakistan and British Raj. I'll explain that in a little bit. But starting out, the British Raj has around, I believe, 200k manpower, roughly. Their manpower pool is pretty decent overall. They have some really nasty debuffs. They've got a huge base population. It's, almost 300 million. They have some really nasty debuffs. Agrarian society, marginalized Muslim community. So, it's a negative 79% to their recruitable population factor right off the bat. That hurts a lot. There are some ways around some of this, but honestly, the easiest way to remedy the situation is when you do eventually gain your independence is by releasing Pakistan. Now, people are probably saying, what? Why release Pakistan? Well, quite simple. If we tag Pakistan here, you see they have 850,000. They don't have any nasty debuffs. Now, but what would happen? I'm losing resources. I'm losing building slots. Honestly, you're not losing that much by releasing Pakistan. They have almost no base industry, and if you just concentrate building up in Raj and ignore these few provinces, you're really not going to lose much, and you get access to a ridiculous amount of manpower with no debuffs. You can, as the standard one goes, if you keep him as a puppet, I think it uses about 30% of your manpower and 7% of your puppets. So again, that solves any manpower issues you might have. Again, you do lose a bit of expansion opportunities in the process, but honestly, I think the manpower is worth it. This is only if you're hurting for manpower. If you just want to keep Pakistan, that's completely fine. The other two reasons why the Raj is extremely powerful is, let's have a look at the resources here. Steel, tungsten, oil, chromium, rubber, a bit of aluminum somewhere. Anyway, so obviously, resource-wise, you're in a pretty good spot. You have a nice bit of steel, a good bit of tungsten, so you can get a nice army going. The only downside is getting independence first. You could always stay with Britain, that's fine. And even if you do, you could almost get rid of the marginalized Muslim community. But again, that's not going to help out the manpower, even though it's not terrible in the first place. So again, Raj, lots of room for expansion here. Honestly, I think they have the most building slots, maybe besides China, for a miner. They can get a huge production base going, and you can really powerhouse. You can expand to Iran for even more expansion opportunities once you break free. Go after China or Japan. Go after Siam for some nice rubber. British Malaya. Honestly, there's really, once you gain your independence, there's not a whole lot stopping you from just completely rolling over the entire world. And number 5, this isn't talked about too much, but we're going to, speaking of China, EXC, no, EX. Hang on one second. Number 1, sorry, is the Guanxi Clique. Now, Guanxi Clique, manpower will never be an issue for you. Base population of 50 million, that's a lot. And you have no manpower negatives whatsoever. So if you run out of men, that would surprise me a lot. Volunteer only, you've got 700,000. If you go to scraping the barrel, you're talking 15 million men, or something similar to that. That's a lot of bodies to throw. The Guanxi Clique, not many people talk about it. Yes, it is a miner in China, but especially when they're Awaken the Tiger, they've got a pretty good focus tree. And, they always have the option to go communist or nationalist, or they could even go fascist if they want. Handy little trick is you take the fascist advisor before switching over to nationalist China. You can convert after you've turned China to the national Chinese tree and go fascist, which is pretty cool. Resource-wise, you're in a pretty good spot. Nice steel, nice tungsten, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Expansion opportunities, you're okay. It's not the greatest, but you do have some room to build up your civilian base. What you really want to go after is the nationalist border conflict. If you can build up a good divisions, 20 width or 40 width, you can honestly get a lot just going after nationalist China. You don't want to waste your time going after Yunnan or Zabai Senma. They're a waste of time. They have next to no building slots, no resources, and you won't even get cords on them until you turn nationalist. So easiest way is to just do the border conflicts with China, get some more this way. Spend it, you can get a ton of manpower that way. If you are feeling brave, you could probably go after Siam. Maybe naval invade them if you want to spend the time building up a navy. They won't be a super easy target, but again, you get yourself a nice bit of rubber, a lot more construction slots. So yeah, overall, Guanxi Clique. Again, this list wasn't in any particular order, but if you want to play a miner, to me, there's nothing more fun. In Hearts of Iron, it is fun playing a major nation, conquering a world, but it's more fun to me going for a minor and just eventually just becoming so powerful you can take on the majors by yourself. Some honorable mentions. These other nations, they can steamroll, but they have a few too many problems, in my opinion, to really get going. It doesn't say you can't do it, because you absolutely can. Sweden's a good one. Resources. They have limited room for expansion inside their own borders, but you got Norway and Finland next to them. Another good one. Greece isn't bad. You get a bunch of steel resources, and you can spend Turkey. And, there's a handful of others as well. But overall, it's my top 5 nations. Brazil and Raj are probably easiest to start out as. You don't have to worry about anything too complicated. Raj, you could stay with Britain. You want to declare your independence. I wouldn't recommend that for new players. Brazil is probably the best starting nation for beginners. They don't have a whole lot to worry about. No one's going to declare war on you. So you can do what your heart's content. And that's probably about it. Thanks for watching, guys.